You are starting a podcast and you want to know what are the three podcast hosting platforms. This is only my opinion, but here are some three of the top, if not the top. One, Spotify for podcasters, or now as it is known, Spotify for creators. Two, Buzzsprout, all in one word. And three, a tie between Libsyn and Podbean. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper into each one of these. Spotify for podcasters, which is essentially the only one that I can actually talk about because I actually host it with them. And I know that it is 100% free. I don't know about the other ones. So Spotify for podcasters, it is a free platform. You can upload your podcast and you can distribute your podcast on all the other platforms for free. Now, this is one of the biggest misconceptions that podcasters, new podcasters essentially have, which is that they think somehow that if you publish your podcast, if your podcast is hosted on one place, it cannot be distributed to other places. That is 100% false. For instance, my podcast is hosted on Spotify for podcasters, but it is distributed across many other podcast listening platforms like YouTube Podcasts, Google Podcasts when it was still around, and of course Apple Podcasts. So just because your podcast is hosted in a particular place, it does not mean that it will not be distributed in other platforms. In number two, we have Buzzsprout, which does have a paid feature. I've never hosted with Buzzsprout, but I know way too many other people that host with Buzzsprout. And three, I know of many other people that have hosted with Podbean or Libsyn. Again, each one of these platforms has its advantages and disadvantages. I personally host with Spotify for podcasters because I started off for free, and for me it has just worked flawlessly and I have absolutely zero complaints so far. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast and grow your podcast, always remember to provide value to your audience. Also, if you need some help starting and growing your podcast, check out the link in the description to join my podcast challenge community, and I'll see you there. Peace.